All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm very excited to introduce Tina Patel. She is from the Vmock team, and she is going to roll out the information concerning this exciting resume platform that we currently use and offer to our students here at Santa Clara. So without further ado, I will let you take it away, Tina.
Awesome. Thanks, Colleen. So just a little bit about me. I've been with Vmock for about 4 years now, and I'm really excited to show you the platform. It's grown tremendously just in the last couple of years. And so really been polishing it up, and I'm genuinely proud to be a part of this company and the work that we do. So yeah, and a little bit about Vmock. We've been in business for about 10 years now. And we use artificial intelligence as well as machine learning to give students feedback on their career portfolios, whether it's like resumes. And so I'll show you that. And we work with universities, colleges, as well as recruiters and organizations like NACE, so that the information being fed into our AI is very different from ChatGPT or other forms of AI out there. So I do want to like clarify that. Um, and so I'll jump right in. So you do have your own Santa Clara um, login, but I'm just going to use a demo account and I'm going to walk it through as though I'm a student signing in for the first time. And so students will pick their academic level, their area of study, and then also what year they're in. And this really helps them so that the feedback that they're receiving is relevant to their academic level. So students who are in undergrad will get very different feedback on their resume than graduate students who have more skills, more experiences. And so therefore their resumes will be a little bit more polished up and have higher levels of these skills on there. And so they should get different feedback. And so the first time a student walks in, they'll be guided through this video and it'll walk them through how to utilize the platform. But I'm going to skip over it for now. And so they'll be brought to their home page here. And there's two pieces at the very top that I want to point out is your resume and then network feedback. So as a staff member, if you are asking your students to send you a resume, you can actually ask them to send it through Vmock. And you won't need a login account, but you do have single sign-on, so I'm sure you'll have access to it, but um, you won't need a login so that you can see the resume, provide feedback all through the platform. And so definitely use that network feedback piece. They'll send you an email and you can go from there. And so when I'm walking in here, students can see that they can improve their resume. So if they already have a resume, this is the button that they want to go to. If they don't have a resume at all, which is totally fine, they can go ahead and create a new one. And they'll be able to select templates and it'll guide them through that whole process. And so I'm just going to show you that piece really quickly. And then I will walk you through as though I already have a resume. And so I'll create a new template or a new resume. I'll pick a template from here. And we really like to emphasize that the templates that are available for students are the ones that career advisors have been utilizing and, are best practices within the region. And so really emphasizing to students that these are meant for your own good. And there's been a lot of thought and intentionality behind the resumes that are available to them. So really sticking to those templates is going to be very helpful for them. And if they have questions about that, definitely reach out to their advisors. And so from here, a student would just go through the process of filling in everything one at a time. And then as they continue to fill these things out, their checklist here will slowly start diminishing. As you saw, as I started finishing up these pieces, they started turning green. And so students will get live feedback on their resume when they're in here. And then they'll just be guided through the different pieces of their resume and how to fill it out. And I'm going to pause there. I'm going to come back to this editor piece in just a little bit, but students need to create a resume, this is a great place to start. And it'll guide them through all those different pieces without having to worry about their format and what to include. And so now I'm going to start with an uploaded resume. If I already have one, students are going to go ahead and upload it as a PDF. And it just takes a couple of seconds to analyze that resume and provide that feedback. So I'm just going to pause here. Does anyone have any questions so far? Yes, Carol, I see your hand up.
You mentioned this, but I didn't hear it clearly. Are the resumes tailored to degree or geographic location? Like, would an
So,
engineer get a slightly different feedback than maybe an English major?
yes, they would get very different feedback. And it's not necessarily geographic, it's just based on best community practices. And so Colleen has worked with her team to provide the best templates that are available for your students. And then we also worked with her and the team to work on creating these benchmarks that are very relevant to your student groups. Okay, awesome. And so once I've uploaded that resume, it's gonna spit out a score. And hopefully students aren't frightened by this, but green means they've done an excellent job, yellow means they're on track, and then red means they need quite a bit of work, and that's okay. That's just to help guide students on where they are with their resume. And it's broken up by 3 categories of impact and presentation and then competencies. And so I'm going to go into more detailed feedback there, but just pointing out to students that they're really close to getting into the green zone. Generally, a number of students are able to get into the green zone within 2 to 3 uploads. So if they do get frightened, letting them know that it's not an impossible task. And so I'm going to click on view detailed feedbacks and it will go into a little bit more detail, but I'm going to click on view detailed feedback again because I want it to go into further detail. And so we're starting with impact, and this category is really focused on how you're making a first impression with the recruiters within like those first like 10 to 15 seconds of them looking at your resume. And so we're going for high impact here. We're starting with action oriented. Students will get a definition of what this means. If they are still really confused about what this could mean, they can click on what is action oriented, and then even further in there, they'll get some examples of what action-oriented language looks like. They'll get examples of correct and incorrect formatting, as well as some statistics below. So they're really not left to fend for themselves, but it's an opportunity for them to learn. And so then you'll see here my resume showing up on the right side. Green means I've done an excellent job. Yellow means maybe I can use some stronger language here. And then red means we definitely need to make some changes. And so instead of writing was responsible for supervising, maybe I can change that for trained or supervised. And I will show you how students will walk through this so that they can implement these changes in just a second. But I'm going to go through all the feedback first. Specifics, very similar format, where green means they've done an excellent job. And some examples of what specifics could look like are within the insights. And so students, maybe they forgot to mention the team size that they had managed or work with. Now's a good time to add that in. Or maybe the number of events that they helped organize through one of their clubs. And then overused words. I utilize the word organized a billion times on my resume. As much as I'm proud of how organized I am, it can be very distracting. And so just pointing out to students when they are repeating one word in particular or a couple. And so I can go ahead and change these when I hover over something in red. I'll get some suggestions. And so students will have to read through these and figure out which of these skills closely align with what they did. And then these are avoided words. where it's like successfully. The idea behind your resume is that the experiences that you're putting on and the skills and work that you're sharing are things that you have done successfully. So just reminding them that this is completely unnecessary and just takes up space on their resume. And they can see some examples of other avoided words that, again, just simply take up space. As they go through their college career, they'll be accumulating more experiences. And sometimes it might be difficult for them to pick and choose. So utilizing that space wisely is really important. I'm going to pause here. Any questions on impact or anything else? All right. So next is presentation. I'm not going to spend too much time here because I'm going to get to the editor piece in just a second, but making sure we're sticking to one page. And then under essential sections, what is being asked by your career advisors to make sure you're definitely including, and then some optional pieces as well, like projects, interests, publications. Overall formatting, this is looking for general consistency throughout. So sometimes maybe a student has accidentally bolded, italicized a bullet point, and this will pick up on that so that students are really consistent throughout. They sometimes don't take into consideration how distracting these presentation issues can be for recruiters. So allowing them to see that, and then also this helps with helping students get through like applicant tracking systems. And then under section specific, there's very specific information that's being asked of within their personal details, for example, their email, making sure that we're including that. Under education, you want to include a very specific styling as well as the full university name and some other requirements. So just pointing out some very section specific requirements will be in here. And then our last piece under presentation is spell check. This is really for if students have maybe an industry specific word, they can go ahead and add it to their dictionary and just helps them to keep it all polished and clean. I see a question. Is one page the modern limit? My students are grad students with work experience in research and etc. Are 2 pages ever considered okay? So for graduate level, I'm going to let Colleen answer this one.
Yes, I'd say for graduate level, 2 pages is fine as long as it's relevant information. Yeah, 1 page would be for an undergrad or someone with not a lot of work experience. Thanks, Carol.
Apologies. Hey. And so our last category is competencies, and we're covering analytical, communication, leadership, teamwork, as well as initiative. And I know organizations like NACE, as well as other career advisors and recruiters around the world are also including other competencies. And so what we've done is we've actually expanded the definition of what these mean so that they're including some of these other competencies that are considered within best practices. And so the idea behind that is when students start getting too many categories of feedback, it gets overwhelming for them. It becomes ineffective. It's not very user-friendly. And we really want to make sure that this is staying user-friendly for students, easy for them to navigate and get the feedback and learn. And so we stick to these 5 for that reason. And so I'm going to start with analytical. There's 2 layers of feedback here that I really do want to emphasize because sometimes students can miss that. The first layer of feedback is based on what's already on your resume. So these experiences that you can consider that are showing up as suggestions on the left side are based on what's already on your resume. So for example, maybe you did some campaigning while you were in your fraternity. If this is relevant to you, go ahead and build out a bullet point that demonstrates your analytical skills under that. And then the second piece of feedback that students are getting is under the insights. And so this is where they'll get information based on the community. And so students within my peer group 56% of them were exposed to some practical thinking experiences. And so if that's relevant to me, maybe I didn't even think about that, I can go ahead and build out a bullet point. So students are struggling to expand on the competencies that they are getting in the yellow or red zone. This is a great place to also go so that they can see what skills and experiences have my peers been exposed to, because maybe I've also been exposed to these. And they'll get some examples of what practical thinking could look like, as well as a bullet point. Any questions here?
Me
And
again.
also, yeah,
These
go for it.
peers, it's the entire US of people who are similar to the person. So if they're an undergraduate, it would compare them to those peers. Is that correct?
No, it's
Oh,
just
okay.
within your Santa. Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
just Santa Clara. Okay, great.
Yeah, the idea is that your student population is probably exposed to different experiences and skills than, let's say, like University of Arkansas, very different resources in that area. And so students will get different experiences and skills. We don't want to suggest these skills that aren't attainable for them or within their grasp. The idea is that they are within reach, they're exposed to them naturally through just being within this community. And I would also encourage students to check back on these frequently because they do get updated as, students are putting in more resumes, allowing them to see some of those updates. And so I'm just going to go through quickly this. I know I went through the feedback, but I just want to point out some areas to navigate the platform with. This is the resume level feedback, which is going into all the detail of what this feedback means, information, as well as some examples. So students are really struggling with a certain type of feedback. Definitely directing them here is ideal. Then they can go into the Smart Editor, and that will allow them to edit their resume within the platform. They'll also see their score up here, and they'll also see when they last updated it. Please encourage them not to update it within like making 1 or 2 changes because they are limited to 10. And the idea behind that is when students get unlimited access, they implement 1 or 2 pieces of feedback, and then they're not really implementing as much feedback as possible to improve their resume. They're just implementing as little as possible to get into the green though. So really encouraging them not to go crazy with that is ideal. They can also request feedback from the network here. They can also download their resume as a PDF or a Word document. I'll show you that in just a second. So I'm going to go into the Smart Editor. I'm going to pick a community template that looks good to me and shows my skills most likely. So it's 10 edits per annual year. And if they really do are power users, definitely direct them to the career advisors. They're more than happy to refresh them. So it's not a hard limit. It's just meant to encourage them to really implement the feedback. And it's not meant to like limit them in any way. And so once my resume has been converted into the community template, some issues that have been highlighted as fixed or need to be fixed are university name, styling, and then we'll go into further detail. So first I get a chance to review the placement of my text. And so filling in location, my degree, making sure that the location, all of these pieces of information that are from the original resume are being placed in the right sections within this resume. So for things that are looking out of place, students can go ahead and make those adjustments. So for example, this shouldn't be here. It should definitely be in this section. So reminding students to definitely take a look. It's not perfect. And then we also maybe want to delete this duplicate. And so what students can do here is they can delete a whole section on the left side, or they can delete individual bullet points on the right side, and it will highlight it within that rectangle if that is what is being highlighted for being deleted. So once I've reviewed my text placement, I'll be brought to this page. It's the same thing with the Smart Assistant on the right side and then your resume on the left side. And so you'll get some quick tips on what needs to be fixed and how to go about it. So red means, again, needs quite a bit of work. Yellow, we're on track. Yellow and green means we're good to go. And so it's first broken up by presentation. And these are some pieces of information that are missing. And so as I make these updates, I'll get some more relevant feedback. And so the idea is here, they're going through presentation first, and then they'll be guided through their content. So students are overwhelmed with how to go about editing their resume. One option is for them to just follow the guidelines on the right side. So it's just like one bullet point at a time, one task at a time, allowing students to run through all the feedback. The other option is when they click within the bullet point, they'll get their feedback for that one bullet point. So removing successfully. I used the word coordinated a few times. So maybe replacing that with organized. Oh, I already had the word organized. Maybe I can just take that out. But allowing students to go ahead and make these changes will update the feedback and they'll see that happening. And they'll also get some examples that are relevant for this bullet point. So I'm getting some examples for maybe a newspaper. So these examples that are showing up on the bottom are meant to be relevant to the student and the bullet points that they're working on. If they're using the Smart Assistant on the right side, this will guide them through one piece of feedback at a time. So correcting this specific bullet point.
Tina, quick question on the samples. Can they cut and paste that, or if to put the sample?
Ideally, they can't cut and paste it in. And the idea behind them is that they're provided examples, not necessarily a bullet point that is for them.
Can they leave that box open while they're typing in the?
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I gotcha. Okay.
So this box is open.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And so they just want to work on one bullet point at a time. If they are not using the Smart Assistant and just looking at one bullet point, they can use this arrow, which guides them through one at a time, and they can go up and down. Maybe under, while they're at the newspaper, they forgot to mention how many articles they publish. Now's a good time to add that in. So they'll just click that little plus sign and I'll add a bullet space underneath and allow them to fill that in. If they are looking at their experience section and they realize, oh, I forgot to add in one of my internships, they'll just click on this plus sign. When they hover over the experience section, they'll hover over the plus sign and allow them an opportunity to add in a whole new experience. There's also the opportunity to delete, but this one's saying, hey, don't delete this because it's a mandatory section. And so when they add in a new experience, you'll put in your position, the company name, and once you've done those things, you'll have space to write a bullet point. And then here are some examples: business development, technology, drug management. I don't know why that is showing up, very odd. Presentations. So these are some experiences that might be relevant and can jog my memory of like what I did and how I want to translate those experiences and skills. If students have a lot of extra space, maybe they want to add in a new section because they have other experiences and information they would like to share. So maybe I want to add in a leadership section. They can go ahead and do that down here. And once they go ahead and do that, they'll be, Oh, I already have leadership. I want to add in, maybe I have some certifications. Now's a good time. I can pick and choose how I want it to look. And at that point, I'll be guided through filling out those bullet points. And again, some relevant examples. Some other features up here on the top left, you can create a new resume. So once you're done working on this, maybe you have a different resume for a different type of internship. Maybe you're a double major. And so you're looking for a varied type of internships and experiences. Maybe you have a different resume. If students need to change the font, they can go ahead and do that here. Specifically like the size, maybe they need a little bit more space. Decreasing the size can help them with that. They can also change their date formatting. I know sometimes people aren't always interested in providing a range, and so they can go with that. And then also layout parameters. So again, if students need a little bit more space, or maybe there's like too much space, they can go ahead and change the spacing between each of these sections, between the subsections, again, to help navigate and utilize the page to its fullest. And then they also have access to all the templates. So if they want to change it over to another one, that's really easy to do here as well. And so once I made these changes, and at this point, there's no more feedback here, students will click on rescore, and they'll be told how many uploads that they have. So a rescore is counting as an upload. And so I'm going to go ahead and rescore it. My score won't change too much because I didn't implement much, but it'll give them opportunity to see how they're doing and then get updated feedback. And so once that's done, you can go ahead and download this as a PDF or a Word document. And the Word document won't mess with your formatting. Nothing will jump around. It is a Word document that students can continue to utilize and update as they graduate, as they move on and add more experiences. So encouraging them to also have a Word document as well as a PDF of the resume is ideal. And again, they can also upload a resume from here. So when they click on this arrow button, they can upload a new resume if they wanted to. And I'm going to pause there. Any questions so far?
I really like it.
Awesome. I'm glad. We worked really hard on this. So students are struggling again to figure out and navigate the platform. We built out the product tour. As you saw, I was just skipping through it, but this is something that they have access to at all times. And will guide them through each of these different sections and highlight how to navigate the platform. And this will update as they go through the product. So when they're in the resume level feedback, the product tour will update to be relevant for them. There's also quick guides. So as students are struggling, maybe there's some questions that are a little bit more frequent, they can see a quick guide here, and they also have little videos to help them out as well. So you can direct them there. Then there's frequently asked questions. And then if none of those are helping, go ahead and definitely send us a note so then we can respond and fix any mistakes that are on our end, or if we can help you out in any way, go ahead and send us a note. But you're also more than welcome to reach out to your advisors. But this is a great way to also get some support. Any questions? Because I'm about done. I don't have anything else to add. Colleen, is there anything you'd like me to cover in more detail?
I think you've covered the main sections. We just, yeah, I'd love to open up for any questions anyone has.
Is it live right now? So anybody with an SCU address can use this? Okay. And
Yes.
I'm pretty sure the answer is yes, but since it runs in a browser, it works on Chromebooks, MacBooks, PCs, cell phones, tablets. Okay.
Yeah, there is a there is way to access it on your mobile. I highly recommend encouraging students to use
It's
it on their laptop
too
though, because of
small,
the
I know.
yeah. Yes, Anne, I see your hand up.
Yeah. So my question's less technical and more kind of to the overall purpose. I work in a very limited, with just a few number of students. So I'm not, I don't have face some of the demands that some of my colleagues do in terms of having to help a lot of students go through this.
You're very
But
lucky.
yeah, I'm just wondering, I mean, this is intended, I think, to help them navigate sort of the automated screening processes that a lot of employers use. But it also strikes me, particularly with the examples, how do you work against them ending up with a lot of resumes that look very similar and are not necessarily distinctive from one another? Because if they're all using the same, I mean, I was just catching Colleen's, if they can leave the box open and kind of copy the example, which I think many of them will do, then you end up with a lot of students that have similar things sitting out there on their resume.
Yeah, great question. So it never happens. And the reason behind it is because the way we built out the platform is, yes, there's examples. So if the students are copying and pasting the examples, that can definitely become problematic. But I've never heard of that being an issue at any of the other universities that I've interacted with. And so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. And also with the suggestions that are being provided, there's just so many so many options within the skill cloud that we're building out constantly. So all the skills and experiences that students are getting feedback on and the different ways in which they can go ahead and translate them on their resumes. On the back end, we're continuing to build that out. So again, it's not necessarily because it has happened where students are being repetitive and matching their resumes with other students. It's purely to help them have access to more language within their resume, but it's not a concern. I wouldn't be too worried. But if that does show up, please send us a note. We're more happy to try to find a solution for that. Anisha, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Tina. This has been really helpful. I think you mentioned this towards the start around the network button in there. But so if my students are using this and they're working through and improving their resume, is there a way that I can go in and see what they're working on and view it myself, or are they just sharing screenshots with me separately?
So when they send you the resume, you'll get a link to their resume and provide feedback within that resume as it is. Ideally, they've worked on it before they send it to you. And so you can add your feedback there and see the resume through that. And I'll send them back to the platform. But if you want to see how they're performing within these different categories, Colleen and her team have access to the admin side, and so they can see it. So you would have to reach out to her and ask for that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
What we found, it's also really helpful is if you are sitting next to the student and they can share their screen and kind of walk through the sections with you. That's really helpful if a student is just struggling.
Tina, I have a question
Yeah, go for it.
related to that. This idea of kind of like sharing with people that are not in the platform. If a student shares their resume with someone that's not in Vmock, can the person to whom it's being shared with provide feedback that the student can receive within Vmock?
Yes. So the idea behind the network feedback is not just within your community. So they don't just have to have a Santa Clara login or a Vmock account. It could even be sent to like alumni, mentors, directors, managers outside of the university as well. And they will get feedback through the platform. So it's still within one area. And that person doesn't need a login. They won't be asked to create one either.
And did you already show this? I popped off a little bit. Like, what does it, how does someone provide feedback when they're not in the platform? Like, what does that look like? Like if
Yeah,
Carol was to receive a resume from a student, how does she provide
yeah.
like the comments like we do on Microsoft Word or?
Yeah, great question. I didn't get to show you that because I'm just on the student side. So I wanted to show you exactly what the student sees. But when you get that feedback request, you'll get the resume and you'll have different options in which how to go about giving them feedback. You can give them overall, like there's a sticky note, you give them overall feedback on the whole resume. Other options are to highlight sections. And so you can like drag over a section and highlight it and say, hey, these are some notes for just this section. You can also provide feedback for one bullet point at a time. So there's multiple options and you can also do a combination of all of those.
Okay, thank you.
We could test it by sending it to our non-Santa Clara email and see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. So if the peer feedback is based on the number of students that have already used it, how many students are already using it?
You'll have to pass that question off to Colleen.
Okay.
That's a good question. Give me a minute. Let me see if I can find it.
Sure.
I can ballpark it, and it's
Just a ballpark is fine.
it's several thousand.
Oh, excellent. That
Yeah,
would be a good data set.
yeah. Across grad, undergrad, all the different constituencies that we serve.
And the AI continues to learn as more students are going through it. So I know you've had it for a few years, so it gets polished up even more.
Yeah, and if I could share my screen, Tina, I can show everyone how the students can get to the link. That might be easiest. So if you were just to Google the Career Center, and then you go to this job prep toolkit right here on our website, we have a section called resume. And that's where there's tons of information, but also where this Vmock link is. So if you wanted to bookmark this, that would be my recommendation.
And really encouraging students to use the platform. I'm just going to go back to that. It's really important just because of all the applicant tracking systems that are more widely available. These templates and these guidelines are meant to help students get through those. Just because they are, again, more widely used now. And students sometimes can't pick up on the small details that maybe can prevent them from getting through those.
I'll ask so many questions, but your feedback is excellent there because I teach graduate students, and to be unfortunately honest, many of them never go to the Career Center, and I like, why not? But I received a sample resume recently, and it was 2 columns, and it had bright colors, and I was like, so I'll encourage that person to send it through here. And my students are engineers. They're like, well, what's the data? So is any of Vmock like educating the student also? This is why you can't have 2 columns, or
Yeah, so when they're clicking under like overused words or like action-oriented language, they can see like what this would mean for recruiters and how it would translate outside of just them having this document. How are recruiters taking a look at it and how is it being interpreted? Oh, I'm so sorry. My screen isn't being shared. And so let me go back. Under the action or the resume level feedback, under action oriented, for example, they can go on under insights here. And so they'll see how recruiters are viewing this type of feedback, whether it's like action oriented. So recruiters agree that to assess the impact of your work, they need to understand exactly what role you play. And so this is throughout the whole platform. So the idea is that they are not only making these changes and edits, they're learning how to go about it and why it's important.
Excellent.
Also, I'm so sorry about your graduate level students and that resume. That must have been horrifying.
Well, I'm going to use this. This will be a good example, right? Because I'm not a career advisor. This person just asked me, and sending it through here, which is blessed by Santa Clara and is backed up by career people if they want to take it one step farther, helps them see it's not just Carol being a weirdo. There's real reasons.
And that seems to be universal. A lot of students sometimes don't want to listen to their advisors, but they'll listen to the platform, which is just as helpful.
Well, thank you so much, Tina. Any other questions for her? Perfect. So I am recording this session and it will go up on the career website under the career influencer page. So you will be able to access it there. But if you want me to email you a copy or link to the presentation, I can do that too.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And so I really appreciate the questions. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
This was
Thank you,
helpful.
Tina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.